It's not in there right now.
Well, we'd have to reintroduce, right? Yeah, we can't do that.
Good evening. I'd like to call this Howell Township Regular Council meeting of May 20th, 2008 to order. Ms. Woman, you please read the appropriate opening statement.
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner: by the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on December 28, 2007, by the faxing of a copy of said notice to the Asbury Park Press, Tri-Town News, and Star Ledger for publication on December 28, 2007, by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on December 28, 2007. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with 3 emergency exits for your safety. The locations are as follows: upon exiting the meeting room, to the rear there, to immediate left and immediate right, and at the front of the meeting room at the left of the dais. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77. Roll call: Mrs. Dalton.
Here.
Mr. Howell.
Here.
Mrs. Showmaker.
Present.
Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Walsh will not be here this evening.
Mayor DeBella.
Mayor DeBella is also not going to be here this evening. Mr. Schlegel, I understand we have reason to go into executive session.
Yes, sir. Attorney-client privilege.
Mrs. Woman, will you please read this appropriate statement?
Whereas Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 13 of the New Jersey Revised Statutes require that the public shall not be excluded from any meeting of a public body unless a resolution authorizing such exclusion is adopted at a public meeting. Whereas the Township Council of the Township of Howell has determined that such a closed meeting is required to discuss certain matters which are exempted from consideration with the public in attendance under New Jersey Revised Statute 10:4-12. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Howell that the public shall be excluded from the next portion of this meeting, and that the Township Council will reconvene in public session thereafter. Be it further resolved that minutes will be kept of the meeting in closed session, and the time and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public cannot be determined at this time.
Need a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Schlegel, how long?
15 minutes.
For the benefit of the public, we should be reconvening in public session in approximately 15 minutes. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Howell Township Council back to order. The time is 7:45. Would everybody please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that everyone please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. All right. Mr. Schlegel, I already spoken to you earlier. I think we're going to. I'd like to scrap the acceptance of the minutes for the previous meeting, just because there's going to be so many where I wasn't here, Mrs. Showmaker wasn't here. You know, maybe we could put that off until the next meeting.
Okay.
Go right into reports of township officials, Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that I believe it was 2 meetings ago, we had a resident mention that the non-residential developments, commercial developments, that we had no ordinance that required them to contribute towards the COA obligation. I don't know if you remember that. Well, in Chapter 188-182, which was amended on 2/15/05 by ordinance number 0.05-6, states that non-residential development COA fees, and for all non-residential developments, a mandatory development fee shall be paid equal to 2% of the total equalized assessed valuation of the non-residential development. And so we do have, there is an ordinance on the books that addresses the COA obligation for non-residential development. So I just wanted to clear that up. We do have an ordinance on the books.
Thank you.
Secondly, I'd like to mention that Thursday night is the Howell Night at the Blue Claws, May 22nd. Game time is 6:35, and the gates open at 5:30. Tickets are available at the Howell Recreation Building, and they're $10, which includes a Blue Claws hat and a voucher.
And they get to watch you throw out the first pitch? Mrs.
There you
Shaw?
go. And also, there will be Memorial Day services held Monday at 11 a.m. in front of Town Hall.
Okay,
That's it for me, sir.
all right. Mrs. Dalton?
I don't have anything to report tonight.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Just two quick comments. I just want to, you may have done this at last meeting and I wasn't here, I was out of town. The death of Lil Homa, who was a past employee of ours, passed away. And I just think that we should, want to recognize her because she worked here for a long time, Also, I want to give my apologies to the PAL. I got my invitation in my packet on Friday. I thought I lost the whole week of my life because it said the 15th. So my apologies, but I got my invitation after the fact on that. And that's all.
I don't have anything. Mr. Bongiovanni, you have anything?
June 5th, we may have announced this at the last meeting, but June 5th, the Assembly is going to be considering the New Jersey American Water rate increase and other similar increases by public utilities. So we've asked to have a chance to speak at that meeting. They have not got back to us yet as to whether or not Howell Township will be giving testimony, but we will be in attendance even if we don't. I would just urge anybody who's interested who can attend a meeting of the General Assembly, they can be there.
Okay. I will go right into hearing a citizen. This is also going to encompass a consent.
Deputy Mayor,
Oh.
I believe Mr. Nunziato has a report.
Okay.
I just have one quick thing, but I think it's worth noting. We now finally have fully executed contracts for the 2008 road program, the paving contract.
Okay.
Right.
The contractor, Earl Construction, they're going to be doing some prep work first week in June. So between now and then, we will not have a meeting. So there's going to be some mobilization. And initially, they're going to be doing like the pavement milling and some of the inlet restoration. That work will probably take 1 to 2 weeks. And then we actually have 20 days or 4 weeks of full paving. We just had a pre-construction meeting last week. We don't have the full details on the schedule. As soon as we get that, we'll make sure we put that up on the website. They're going to coordinate that with the police department traffic safety unit so that, if the roads need to be closed during paving, we'll make sure that the residents that live on those roads can get in and get out. There'll be notifications, hang tags. But I just wanted to let you know because between now and the next meeting, there's going to be some activity with the paving contract.
Okay, great. I will go into hearing a public citizen, then, and as I stated, this is also going to encompass the consent agenda items. So first person on the list is Mr. Robert Nicastro. Good evening, Mr. Nicastro. How are you?
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, Council. I just wanted to bring something to your attention of an application that was partially heard last week by the planning board for a chain retail drugstore that's being proposed to be built on Route 9 South near Casino Drive, and more specifically, it's right next to the Howell Lanes bowling alley. I don't want to mention any details because, like I said, it was partially heard, but after the meeting, it dawned on me on a problem that's been plaguing Howell for a long time, and that's the abandoned shopping carts. So as you know, as you drive down Route 9 at any given time, especially near Lanes Mills Road and New Friendship, you'll always see abandoned shopping carts on the side of the Route 9. I've made some citizen service requests. I'm sure many other citizens have too, and I've been told that it's been a problem of Howell Township for a long time. I've also been told that usually when the abandoned shopping carts are on Route 9, it becomes the county's problem. So the county has to be called and they have to remove them. So I'll tell you that this isn't only just a Howell Township or county problem, it's a nationwide problem. And I'll share some statistics with you from the Food Markets Institute. And they say that it's $100 million problem annually for the supermarket chains alone, having shopping carts leaving their sites, and it costs the retailer approximately $154 per cart. So I think it's time now that this governing body gets something on the books to address this problem. I would define this as the same as garbage or rubbish. And when these carts are abandoned, they tend to create a danger to the public health, safety, and the welfare. So I'd like to make a recommendation to the council that you adopt an abandoned shopping cart ordinance to prevent and eliminate the potential hazards to the public's health, safety associated with abandoned shopping carts, including interference with pedestrian and vehicle traffic, and also the accumulation of carts which tend to create conditions that reduce property values and promote blight and deterioration of neighborhoods and commercial centers. I've done some research, and other towns have adopted similar ordinances to address this concern. There are shopping cart containment solutions that merchants can put in place to contain and control their carts on their property. So I'd be happy to share any information with the township manager and the attorney if they like. And just in summary, this problem isn't going away. It's going to continue with the applications coming before the planning board and zoning boards. And we have no jurisdictions to have the applicants deal with this problem. So I thank you for your time and your consideration. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. McCaskill. Next up will be Barbara Dixell. Good evening, Mrs. Dixell. How are you? It says here you want to speak about the County Road 524 light.
Okay. Good evening, Barbara Dixell, Villages, Freehold. As you know, a few years ago, and it wasn't this council, it was a previous council, when I was the liaison to the school board, I did talk to the council, and I talked to Joe Attor. At that time, it was Mr. Ted Giannichini, but he's retired, so Joe Attor did it. He's the present county engineer. About a light on County Road 524 and Fairfield because of the safety of the kids in school and the buses and the traffic and everything. So he's been working on this for a long time. The problem was there was a house on County Road 524 that they thought they would have to do some eminent domain. They were fortunate they didn't have to do it. The school board did not want to pay for it. They wanted the county to pay for it. They didn't even want to go half with them. So anyway, so I did speak with Joe Attor this morning, and the light is going out to contract. It should be installed before the school term begins in September. And he told me I should take myself a pat on the back here for that because it's gone, it's done. And I also explained to him that we have to have very deep concern about the kids on the road with this MAC thing coming and 1,000 parking spots because, we have to concern ourselves because when they were before the planning board, I did it myself. I went to the Board of Education and spoke to Herb Massa, and I said, listen, send this application or the zoning board or somebody a letter about all these kids on the road and what time they're on the road when in reference to this 1,000-car parking lot and everything, that the traffic is going to be there. And they did this, 58 bus trips. We have 58 bus trips of kids on County Road 524 in Fairfield, and the zoning board made note of it. But we also have to consider the high school, the regional. I mean, you've got these kids on the road also. So we just have to be very cognizant of all of these school buses and kids and everything on the road. And I did speak with Mr. Attor a little bit about, like I say, I'm not too familiar with this MAC Center thing, but according to them, this MAC Center thing has not come to the...
Excuse me. Ms. Dixell, that's presently in litigation.
well,
I don't really think we should be
absolutely.
discussing
Okay,
it.
fine.
It's in litigation, and the township shouldn't discuss it.
Oh, okay, that's good.
On the other hand, I just want to say, you're presuming that whoever's making these contingency plans for this center, it should be pointed out that what happened was there was a hearing, and the applicant was denied.
Denied, correct.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know why they're making
I'm just saying it as a
contingency
point
for
of
something.
information. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
meant nothing, just as a point of
I
information.
don't want people to think that something's
No,
been
no,
approved.
absolutely not. Okay, regarding there was also an application. Is there any way that this township can kind of craft an ordinance that when people or businesses come into Howell, if they don't have approvals and they open up shop and they're doing business, can we open up some kind of an ordinance that will, if it comes to light that somebody's in business without approvals, can they be shut down if there's some kind of an ordinance on the book? Does anybody, other towns have an ordinance on any books, any place?
Yeah. Well, basically all businesses that are unregulated, that don't have a site plan approval, or if you're talking about a place of a permanent business, and they're opening up businesses on properties that they don't have any permits for whatsoever, or a commercial permit, there are already ordinances in place. So if you could describe a little bit more precisely what you're talking about.
Well, there was one.
Give me an example, for example.
Okay, there was one last night, and the guy is on Wyckoff Road, and he's been around there for a couple of years and storing construction trucks and wants to put up a big, it was passed, but, you know, they're going to put up a pole barn or something, but the guy's been there for 3 years, you know, 2-3 years already doing business. I just want to know if anything can be done, if anything on the books.
We already have an ordinance that says if you have a residence, you can't run a business out of the residence.
Mayor, that's 5 minutes.
Okay, just thought I'd bring it all up. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dixon. Next up is Janice Romasukis. Romasukis? I was close. You should have been here for Student Government Day. And it says here you want to speak about MAC. Now,
I know that you just brought up that we really can't talk about it,
Right.
but I want to tell you that there is a growing petition, and I wanted to bring up the updated petition.
Well, wait a second.
We can't take it?
Well, the zoning board disapproved the application. Under our ordinance, if they had approved it, the council could possibly hear an appeal of it. So the council can't really hear an appeal. On the other hand, I don't know what the purpose of a petition serves, because we can't really interfere with the zoning board's decision-making process, or tell them what position to take. So if we take, you know, the petition by you or anyone else, we won't want to give the impression that somehow that is going to mean that we're going to try to tell the zoning board what to do, because it's an independent body.
I don't know if that's what we want to do. I think we mostly just want to know, let everybody know how important it is that this doesn't get passed. I mean, I understand it's a board that you can't influence.
It was already denied, is that?
It was already denied, and as this is something I think I might have mentioned about this or some other similar situation, the township already did its job by putting in the zoning that's in place. This particular application, as far as I know, didn't meet the zoning requirements, and that's why it's before the zoning board. Zoning board did not permit it, so the council has no involvement in it.
Can I just add to?
Is that the same one?
Mr. Bongiovanni, the MAC matter is pending in front of the Superior Court,
Yes.
is that correct? And the
Yes.
judge is going to make a decision,
Yes.
and right now it's not in front of the township
No.
or the zoning board at all?
No.
No.
Thank you. Next, Pauline Smith. Says here you also want to speak about MAC. Good evening, Mrs. Smith.
Sorry about that, I ran into it. Pauline Smith, 54 Vanderveer Road. I came in just as Elaine was informing you about the non-residential responsibilities in our ordinance for COA. I know it's there, it's been there, but it's not enough. I didn't, maybe I didn't explain very well. It doesn't cover what they might require. It's just it's 2%. That's it. Now, it's okay if it's a small non-residential, but if it's a large box store, a shopping center, big building, they've got a couple of dozen employees, that 2% doesn't cover what they will create. And I'd like to see that updated. I know it's not a simple matter, not 1, 2, 3. Will take a little bit of work to figure out what would be fair. But the way I see it now, they don't pay their share. They're getting off, we the homeowners and the rest of the businesses have to subsidize. Now, maybe I can explain a little bit why people are still so concerned about MAC. And I don't expect you to comment, but maybe just please listen and understand why people are upset. If anybody's read, and I won't quote it because I didn't bring my glasses, but I did read it earlier, the most recent Howell Times, Mr. T.J. Cullen had a lot to say. Said they're not through. They want to be here, and that's it. They're going to steamroll us, is basically what I get from this. And it insults my intelligence, and I would hope it would insult yours when you read it. For instance, he says, and again, I don't expect a comment, just understand why people are concerned. He seems to want to quash what it sounds like he considers a rumor or untruth, that the buildings are proposed to be 7 stories. Nobody's ever said that. They said 70 feet. And that's what they applied for a variance for, 70 feet, which is not acceptable, permitted in any zone in the township. So this man is lying, or somebody's made a mistake. But my own opinion is he and they and their attorney will say and do anything to get their way. And that's why the people feel that they have to stand up and ask you to take notice. I can give you an argument for an hour why it shouldn't be there, but this isn't the time and the place, and I understand that. But I hope you would understand that the people have a right to be concerned. They just don't want to, nobody wants to come out on this rainy night. I'm driving myself tonight. Don's an environmental commission responsibility. I would have stayed home, but they asked me to come out and be part of them. And I am, and I understand this, and I've seen it happen before. Everybody sits back and figures it's done. The zoning board did their job. It's a non-permitted use in either zone, and it's a non-permitted use for a reason. For the last 20 years that I know of, I've either observed or participated in master plan processes. There probably been a half a dozen different planners and a half a dozen different planning boards. And they all came to the same conclusion independently, that there's a reason for the zoning, the way it is in that particular area. And just because somebody wants to come in and buy a piece of property, they knew, or they should have known, what the zoning was when they bought the property. It's not a hardship. As a matter of fact, Mr. Cohen says that he's basically doing Howell Township a favor by building it. Well, the biggest favor would be if it was left open space. It provides the best rateable anybody could have by being a combination of woods, wetlands, not buildable, and farmland, assessed land. And it doesn't take any services at all. That land subsidizes us, our tax dollars, more than anything ever built on it. And if you don't take my word for it, ask, I know you have a lot of respect for Mr. Costigan and his knowledge of agriculture. He can explain to you exactly how and why and where the studies come from. I can too, but I think you'll take it better from him.
Excuse me, Mayor, that's 5 minutes.
If he wants to do something for Howell, he can just donate the land. If he's worried about his business, he should put it where it belongs. I've had several people mention to me, why don't they look at that corner of Hols's Corner Road and Route 9 with the ugly clock factory, that would be an ideal place for such a thing, and it would be on a main highway and wouldn't impact people's homes.
Okay, Mrs.
Tell them to go there.
All right, thanks, Mrs. Smith.
But I hope you understand from my explanation why people are so concerned. They're not giving up, so we're not going to give up. Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Smith. Next up, Mr. Russ Bowen. You said here you want to speak about minutes of meetings and rezoning.
Good evening. I had seen on your agenda tonight...
Mr. Bowen, you have to state your name and address.
Russ Bowen, 165 Belmar Boulevard. I saw on your agenda this evening, one of the items was approval of minutes, which you announced you were going to postpone doing some of you not attending meetings. I did look over the minutes from the March 18th meeting, and there's a couple errors there I would like you to make note of and perhaps correct. I was quoted on a suggestion...
Mr. Bowen, hang on one second. Mr. Bongiovanni.
Mr. Bowen, if you would like to point out an inaccuracy of a statement you made, I see no reason why we shouldn't hear you out for up to your 5 minutes if you'd like, or even longer if the council will permit it. But correcting their minutes is up to the body themselves. So that's their function. I don't, it's not like a participatory thing where you make a motion for them to change their minutes.
I understand that. I just wanted to point out an inaccuracy in how I was quoted. On page 2, item 6, I had offered a comment that to alleviate residents' concerns about the impact of a hotel ordinance, many hotels being built, that you possibly insert language in the ordinance to prohibit hotels from being closer together than a certain distance, like gas stations. And the way it's quoted in your minutes is that I recommend the hotels be no more than 1/2 mile apart. I said no less than half a mile apart. 180 degrees from what I was trying to convey.
I remember you saying that.
Mr. Walsh, even at the time, said it's a good idea.
And those meetings are also recorded, I think, too, right? We have them on TV.
Okay. Which brings me to my second point. Sometime in the past, you made a decision to post minutes on the website of the council and the planning board and the zoning board. And the planning board and zoning board, their actual transcripts. And they serve a value to be there, but looking back to see what's been posted, zoning board, there's been no minutes posted in 2008, and the last date that they're posted for in 2007 is May 14th.
That was the zoning board and the planning board?
Zoning board. Planning board has no 2008 minutes. Last one is December 18th. That was probably the last planning board meeting in 2007. And the council section of the website, there are no minutes posted for 2008 at all.
Okay.
And my third and final thing I want to speak about was this ordinance I see you're introducing tonight for the rezoning of West Farms Road. This was previously brought up, introduced in December and withdrawn in January.
So we were going to talk about...
Pardon? At the time, it was said it was being withdrawn due to a technical flaw in the ordinance, and the only difference I see in the present one being introduced is the elimination of the lot that comprises Green Acres Mobile Home Park.
I disagree that the council said that there were technical flaws. I believe that the records would show that the council was very concerned about the residents who did not want to see any change in the mobile home park, and I believe that's why it wasn't introduced.
The Asbury Park press articles at the time said that it was withdrawn due to technical flaws. I don't want to get into a debate about that point.
Okay.
I'm pleased to see that the ordinance you're reintroducing at least takes the mobile home park off the table. It spares those people any uncertainty about what could happen to them. However, the planning board last year revised the 2006 master plan to recommend that area not be declared to be HD3, but rezoned to be ARE4 on the basis of environmental sensitivity. It's crisscrossed by a number of streams, and the infrastructure of West Farms Road would seem the comments of the planning board, it would turn that area into a traffic nightmare for the existing residents and the potential few hundred more that might come from adult communities. That discussion in the planning board minutes is posted on the website, and you can review that yourselves. Specifically, page 7, line 35 is where it begins. It runs through page 15, line 2. Coupled with the recent changes to our riparian buffer ordinance, which reduces the stream buffers on non-C1 streams to 200 feet from stream bank. And this is all in an area that's non-C1 streams, everything north of West Farms Road is.
We increased the buffers for non-C1 streams.
Previously, all the streams in the township were granted 300 feet from the stream bank or a floodplain where it existed.
Only C1.
Pardon?
That only applied to C1.
The previous ordinance applied to all streams.
The 300 feet that you're talking about applied to C1 streams.
I was on the planning board for 2 years, and many cases came before the planning board. They were all treated on the basis of 300 feet.
Well, then there might have been an erroneous interpretation.
But that's the rules that any developer lived under for 2006 and 2007. Anyhow, my point being,
Mayor, that's 5 minutes.
my point just in summary was that the recommendation to change that to 4-acre zoning was due to environmental sensitivity, and to turn that into a residential adult community zone, coupled with the reduction in the buffers afforded by the present riparian buffer ordinance,
But we didn't reduce it.
could result in vastly increased development to the detriment of the drinking water. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ball. Next is Tom Romasokis. Okay.
Good evening. Sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening. Not used to this. Okay. Pat Wagner, 374 Buckaloo Road. It is about Mac
Just
Athletic.
move the microphone closer.
Toward? Okay. Better?
That's
Okay.
better.
Okay. My question is now that the town has opposed the planning for the SMAC Athletic Center, who goes to pretrial to represent the residents of Howell?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Are the residents of Howell filing a lawsuit against them?
No, but MAC Athletic Center is going to appeal through Superior Court what has been opposed through the town.
No, it's been opposed by people who appeared before the zoning board, and the zoning board heard the case, and the zoning board made a decision, and I believe the zoning board will try to have their decision upheld in court. They have an attorney, they have a, legal staff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We are legally represented.
No, the zoning board is represented.
Well, we as the people should be represented as part of the zoning board, correct?
And you have a right to possibly get involved in that, but you'd have to talk to an attorney about that.
You're not understanding what I'm saying, Mr. Bongiovanni. What
Yes,
I'm
I am.
saying. Excuse me?
Mr. Bongiovanni, let me try to explain.
Thank you.
The matter is between the zoning board and the applicant.
Correct.
If residents, perhaps those of you who are in the audience, who some spoke out at that meeting.
Yes.
Perhaps some of you didn't, you have the right to seek to intervene and appear in the Superior Court matter, but that's really something you need to discuss with an attorney of your own choosing. Mr. Bongiovanni, nor myself, nor anyone can give you that kind of advice. But it is not uncommon for people, residents, to pool their collective resources and hire counsel. It's done all the time at the zoning board level.
Okay.
Now, I myself was part of a group of residents who pooled resources to fight an application a few years ago.
Right, and I agree, and that is something that we are looking at right now. And I do, I wasn't going to apologize.
There's nothing, we don't have a difference in opinion, and you're not taking up our time. Go right ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I just feel that this, and I want to say this before the deputy mayor and the council people and everyone here. I've been here 10 years, and I absolutely love Howell. Our families have been down in Howell area for over 40 years, and that's one of the reasons I came here. Change is good. There's nothing wrong with change. destruction of the existing homeowners and the area, that is what we're all opposed to. And I know that the zoning board agreed with the ordinances that were put before them. And that's why, that's one of my questions. I wanted to make sure that the zoning board, which is representation of Howell Township, is understanding how important it is to the existing homeowners, not allowing an influx of people, sewers having to be brought into our community, speeding, people being out at 11, 12 o'clock at night. You know, there is noise, there's a lot of things that are going on. I know that you all know all about this. I just wanted to make sure that I, as an existing homeowner, made my point again, that this is very important to all of us, not just a few homeowners, but everyone in the community. Because if you allow something to be a variance and changed because they want it, what says that the next person can't do that also?
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Warren Curry. Good evening, Mr. Curry. How are you?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Warren Curry, Georgia Tavern Road. I see here you have on the agenda 0-08-10, an ordinance of the Township Council of Township Howell, revising its Code of General Ordinances and establishing licensing requirements for places of public amusement, outdoor gatherings, and clubs. Can you tell me why we need this, since we have enough ordinances on the books already to control and keep the public safe, and so on and so forth? From what I read here, and this was a surprise to me, I haven't been coming to meetings for a while, but it seems to be another way for local government to extract money from the people. Periodic functions start at $75. Regular functions, $225. It goes to, or can go to, someone having a Memorial Day party, yard party, with a large family and a gathering of friends. And if any enforcement agent chooses to do so, he can find 100 reasons in this ordinance to either stop them or cause them to have to pay a fine. It's so empowering for any person that might have a grudge, who's in a position of power over this. And we've had those things happen before in town. It's another, in my opinion, it's just another piece of government in your face. It's not needed, and I would suggest that you, at the very least, revisit it. And my suggestion would be that you just throw it out and disregard it, and not adopt it, because it's very constricting, and it will in time, if not right away, creep into the public's right to have a little fun, you know? I think we've got enough government in our face right now, and I think that this should be thrown out altogether. I would suggest that strongly to you. I don't even see the reasoning for it, since we have enough on the books already. I don't think your job up there is to just pump out ordinances just to show that you can, or just because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do. I think when they're needed, of course it's your job. But to just make them stronger and stronger and stronger, and take away more and more of the public's freedoms, I think it just goes against the basic nature of this whole country. We're losing enough already, and I don't think we should be losing this, the right to just gather and have fun, and not have to pay fines, or rather license fees, and they run from $75 to $2,500 for a business function. All right, business is making money. But in here, whether you make money at it or you don't make money at it, you're still going to have to get a license. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I could go on, but I guess you've got my drift.
Actually, 3 points. One, we wouldn't want to mislead anybody into believing that if the ordinance is introduced tonight, that they're not going to have, people are not going to have a chance to speak about it at length and give us all their opinions and arguments about it at the public hearing. This is just on for possible introduction tonight. That's number one. Second, so, Mr. Curry, be sure that you're there at that time. Secondly, this ordinance was recommended very strongly by the police department, and they've been asking for an ordinance such as this for quite some time, and other departments as well. Third, it is only designed to affect profit-making or commercial activities. It says, for example...
There's non-profit in there.
Yeah, but they're commercial activities. Places of public amusement are designed for commercial purposes. That's very clear. And then it has the definition for outdoor gatherings and clubs, and they're all for commercial purposes. Last but not least, this is not designed to inhibit free speech or anything like that, although I would point out that even free speech is regulated by a lot of time, place, and manner ordinances.
Too many.
This isn't aimed at that.
Well, I think you're missing some of it. I only read it once, but I see it's for non-profit, not-for-profit organizations, groups, gatherings, and such. It's too all-encompassing. I can understand if there are businesses profiting from anything they want to run, and it has to be controlled or at least overseen by local government. That's the job of local government. But people should be free to gather and have fun, whether it's a club, an organization, or just groups of people who are invited to come to do things where they might enjoy themselves. I don't see the need for having to have licenses for everything. It just doesn't make sense to me, and it's just another infringement on our freedoms. We're going down the tubes all the time. We're losing freedoms every day. On the federal level, God help us. I think I said enough.
All right, Mr. Curry, thank you. Next, Lauren Grazer. Says here you want to speak about the Fairfield Road. I'm guessing this is about Mac.
Laurel Grasser, 496 Brickyard Road. I didn't realize, well, I'm just going to reiterate what everybody else says. There's a bunch of us that do not feel that this is the place for it, but I didn't realize that it had gone to court already. They had threatened to sue, and the man even stood up there and said, oh, they're going to sue us. And I don't understand that, because we have zoning laws that say it's not suitable. It should be a done deal. So they go and sue. And I guess they could win. I guess some judge is going to make a decision, and it's going to be out of our control. And that's what's a shame, because it shouldn't even go that far. If our zoning says it's not suitable, it's not suitable. You can try to change it, but if we vote it down and the people vote it down, it's done. I don't know why it goes to court, but, you know, I don't understand all the politics, and I don't claim to. But I do want to say that, you know, I'm definitely against it, and I hope to God that it gets defeated. And I feel there's a big, you know, underlying agenda behind the whole thing, and I think that once they're in, it's going to explode into this big thing. They're going to keep coming back and saying, I want this, and the next thing you know, it's going to be this huge complex where we have teams coming in and doing their thing, and it's just going to be huge, very huge. So I think everybody else said everything, but I didn't know it wasn't the place, but thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, Norma Marino.
Norma, let them know that you have retained an attorney.
Yeah. Hi. This is about Mac also.
I need your name and
Norma
address.
Marino.
Okay.
354 Fairfield Road. I've been to all the meetings related to this project. I'm here again tonight I don't know how many times we have to say it. We are really devastated. We can't believe that we are being forced, even after the fact that they was said no to, the client was said no to, as far as what kind of business can be built, the height, the traffic that it would bring, the destruction to our houses, opening the lanes to a 4-lane corner, changing the lights, restructuring the whole corner. So here I am again to let you know these people, they're very bad faith, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you a very, very short story. The last time that we met, I was outside with a friend, and the lawyer was coming in. He looked at us and said, "The only problem that I see is the traffic," like they had it licked. So I said, you wish, to him. And I said, what about those 2 families on the corner? There's 2 homes. They stand right on the corner. They have this much property in relation to the street. So when I said to them, what about those 2 families? He said, if eminent domain needs to be, so be it. And that told me everything. These people don't have. They're presenting one face. It's all about them. And this is our lives. This is our everyday life. So this is what I'm here to say. And yes, we do have an attorney. And what we need to do to hook it up with the power, whatever power we need to, because we need to be represented. We are just not going to take it laying down. Every time someone wants to come, it's not even for the community. It's a personal business. This company, these people, there were one of them that was found has some criminal something or other, which I won't go deeper into, and even that was overseen, that no one wanted to talk about it. So what do? All we can do is come to you and tell you how we feel. And hopefully that you yourself would know that if it happens to your neighborhood and your street, you would be doing the same thing also. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public? Mr. Costigan?
John Costigan, 214 Birdsall Road. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I came in about a little bit late and I didn't get to sign in.
No one noticed till you said so.
Pardon me? I don't notice myself sometimes. Sometimes I think I'm sleeping, but I'm really awake. Number one, the 9A6 ordinance, that's the one that Mr. Curry was talking about. One of the concerns that I have, I noticed on definitions, 189-2, number 2, it says agricultural affairs. It may interest the council to know that we dazzle the Monmouth County Ag Board and the Monmouth County people because we saved a lot of farms in a short period of time from 2003 on. But something else that dazzles them, not in a good way, is that Howell Township is before that board more times than any of the other townships combined in the farming community for agricultural problems created because the ordinances that we have aren't tight enough to, it allows the code enforcement, who do a wonderful job, they're doing their job, but they're going on an ordinances that aren't crafted tightly enough to take out the agricultural, the legally countenanced activities of farms from both the state Right to Farm Act and our township ordinance, the Right to Farm ordinance. So we're before that board. I mean, from McGill on Ramtown Florist, he was there. He was given all kinds of summonses, had to go to court, but what he was doing, whether we like it or not, was legitimate. And it's happened quite a bit. The Readaman Ranch was another one. It was rough, and there's things that he had to do, but he was somewhat within his rights. as an agricultural point of view. And, you know, I look at Mr. Curry does rodeos. He's got plenty of room to do it. He keeps his place clean. He's going to be impacted by this, and what's going to happen is it's going to wind up at the Monmouth County Ag Board again. They're not happy with us because they have to take a whole night. I know Mr. Bongiovanni would know about that, maybe 2 nights, that they're tied up. They don't want to be tied up with these kinds of things. That's the problem. So I don't want to belabor it, but maybe we could tighten that up a little bit. This is something that might be very good for a more urban area, but not maybe a rural area, because there's other things that come in. So that's all I have to say on that. The second thing is, I'm looking at the agenda, and this particular ordinance has a hearing on June 10th. That's 9.8.6. 9.8.7 is reserved. I don't know what that is. 9.8.8, 9.8.9, 9.8.10.10, and 9.8.11 all have hearings on June 10th. Now, statutorily, we know that the primary is June 3rd. Then June 9th, by statute, all county committees, Republican, Democrat, have to meet and choose, they reorganize. And on June 10th, all of the county committees, Democrat and Republican, go and meet again and reorganize on a county level. Now, I counted 7 people in this audience right now that will be at these reorganizations, either the Democrat or Republican. In fact, 8, I could count 8. If I count North Township and Mr.
You tell me that you
Bongiovanni.
already know the outcome of the election?
No, it doesn't matter, but I'm just saying. So the statute says we meet. So we won't be here to discuss these at a public hearing.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. So I don't know if it's an expense, I don't know, but is there any way possibly that those, at least these ordinances that they're due to be heard on June 10th could be? No? Well, think it over, anyway. Maybe you'll change your mind. To me, you know, we have duties, you know?
So do we.
Well, you have duties nonetheless, but you have probably 30 meetings or more a year that you can have this particular thing. Because if I have to leave there to come here, well, that wouldn't be nice, but thank you very much. Have a good evening.
All right, Mr. Costa, you have a good evening. Anybody else? Seeing nobody else, I'm going to close the public portion. And move on to consent agenda items. Anybody call the council's attention to 9B1 through 9B27? Does anybody need a separate vote on any of those items?
Mr. Deputy Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Filiotto.
I respectfully request that 9B24 be removed from the agenda. It requires 4 votes.
All righty.
We'll have to defer that to the next meeting.
Can't vote twice.
All right, so we're going to remove 9B24. All right, so it's 9B1 through 9B23, and then 9B25, 26, and 27. And can we also go add to that 9C1 through 9C6?
Yes.
And if there's no separate votes needed, get a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
You know, can I make a comment?
Sure, Mr. Chairman.
9B25, I don't remember, that was never, it's not a workshop, I don't,
No, that was a signed contract, and we're just memorializing that.
has nothing to do
No.
beforehand,
Oh, no,
right?
right.
That's what I thought.
No, this was the department heads.
Right, okay. You need a motion?
We have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
move on to the 9A items. Will be in- Okay. Take a moment. Okay. Start with 9A1.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-5 on first reading by title and to be ordered to be published in the full in 5/2308 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it be further considered for final passage after a public hearing in the meeting of the Township Council to be held on June 24th, 2008, 7:30, prevailing time in the municipal building.
I have a motion, I need a second. Roll call, please, Mrs. Wallman.
I'll read the title first. An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell amending the Code of General Ordinances, Chapter 13, Emergency Services Benefits. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
9A2, municipal clerk authorization for raffles and bingos.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-6 on first reading by title and to order that same be published in full in the 5/2308 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on June 24th at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Ms. Wallman, will you read the ordinance by title, please?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell amending the Code of Howell Township. Article 139 entitled Fees, Charges, and Costs. Article 8, Fees for Raffles, Bingos, and Legalized Games of Chance. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
9A3, allow for scenic drive to be a through street.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-7 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 5/2308 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, that be further considered for final passage after public hearing and meeting of the Township Council to be held on June 24th, 2008, 7:30, prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second.
Mrs. Wallman?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, pursuant to NJSA 39:4-140, amending the Code of Howell Township, Section 7-6.1, through streets, to add scenic drive between Strickland Road and Route 9, and adding said street to Schedule 8 of same. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Next is 984, and one that is near and dear to my heart is finally the VFW lease agreement.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-8 on first reading by title and to order that same be published in full in the 5/2308 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on June 24th, 2008 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second.
Mrs. Wallman?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, authorizing the leasing of real property in the Township of Howell pursuant to NJSA 40A:12-13 et sec. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
985, amend land use for stormwater management.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-9 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 5/2308 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it be further considered for final passage after public hearing the meeting of the Township Council to be held on 6/24/08, 7:30, prevailing time in the municipal building.
Have a motion, need a second.
Second.
Mrs. Wallman?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell revising stormwater management control and basin cost calculations. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
986, licensing requirements for outdoor gatherings.
Deputy Mayor, respectfully, I had some concerns about this ordinance, and I'm uncomfortable. We didn't really do a whole lot with it at workshop, and I'll take some responsibility for that. I think it's too important for us to introduce it with the concerns that I have. That will free up some time on June 10th to get all 5 of the other ones in, but I'm not inclined to seek introduction, and unless the 2 of you disagree with me, I'm not going to introduce it.
Mrs. Showmaker?
It's fine. Want me to introduce it? Want me to introduce it? Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-10 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 523 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of introduction and passage in the first reading by title, that be further considered for final passage after public hearing and meeting of the Township Council to be held on 6/10/08 at 7:30 prevailing time at Municipal Building.
I have a motion. I'm going to step down, and I'll second the motion. Mrs. Wallman?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell revising its Code of General Ordinances and establishing licensing requirements for places of public amusements, outdoor gatherings, and clubs. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
No.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
988, amend land use for the outdoor display of goods.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-11 on first reading by title and to be published in full in the 523 issue of Asbury Park Press with notice of its introduction and passage in the first reading by title, be further considered for final passage at the public hearing and meeting of the Township Council to be held on 6/23, 7:30 prevailing time in the Municipal Building.
Second.
Mrs. Wallman?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell amending the Code of Howell Township, Chapter 188-68, entitled Outdoor Display of Goods. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
989, amend Chapter 265.2, portable sports equipment in public streets.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-13 on first reading by title and to order that same be published in full in the 52308 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will further be considered for final passage after public hearing and a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 6/10/08 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the Municipal Building.
Municipal? I have a
It's like
motion, I need a
Floridians.
second.
Second.
Mrs. Wallman?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell amending the Code of Howell Township, Chapter 265, Snow and Ice, Article 1, Parking, Section 265-2, entitled Portable Sports Equipment in Public Streets Prohibited During Winter Months, to be re-entitled Portable Sports Equipment in Public Streets. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
9810, amend Chapter 277, signed at construction sites.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-14 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 52308 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it be further considered for final passage after public hearing and a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 6/10/08, 7:30 prevailing time in the Municipal Building.
Second.
Mrs. Wallman?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell amending Code of Howell Township, Chapter 277, Streets and Sidewalks, Article 3, Traffic Control for Street and Highway Construction, Section 277-14 entitled Site Preparation, and Section 277-15 entitled Violations and Penalties. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
9A11, amend Chapter 269-9, minor soil removal permit.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-15 on first reading by title and to order that same be published in full in the 52308 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing and a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 6/10/08 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the Municipal Building.
Motion, I need a
Second.
second. Mrs. Wallman?
An ordinance amending the Code of Howell Township Ordinance Chapter 269, Section 9C, entitled Bond and Insurance Requirements. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
I'm rounding off an even dozen. Amend 9812, amend land use RAC zoning.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-16 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 52308 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it be further considered for final passage after public hearing and the meeting of the Township Council to be held on 6/24/08, 7:30 prevailing time in the Municipal Building.
Second.
Mrs. Wallman?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell rezoning Block 109, Lot 40.01 from the present designation of Mobile Home Park MHP Zone to Residential Adult Community RAC Zone, Block 109, Lots 34.01, 35, 35.01, 36, 37, and 38, from the present zoning designation of Agricultural Rural Estate 1, RE1 Zone, to Residential Adult Community RAC Zone, and Block 109, Lots 43, 44, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, and 53, and Blocks 136, Lots 1, 2, 2.01, 2.02, 3, 3.01, 4, and 5, from the present zoning designation of Agricultural Rural Estate 2, ARE2 zone to Residential Adult Community RAC zone and amending and supplementing Section 188-86.1 of the Code of the Township of Howell, New Jersey. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Schlegel, you have anything else?
No, sir, that's it.
For the benefit of the public, our next workshop meeting will be Tuesday, June 10th. Executive session 6:30, regular session 7:30, and our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, June 24th, with executive session at 6:30 and regular session at 7:30. And the parade, the Memorial Day Parade in Farmingdale is Monday at 1 p.m. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All right.
Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good evening.